Thank you so much for coming this evening. We really wanted to run this event to give you a sort of a look at some of the other roles in television and film that you may not have thought of before. I know many of you are at university or college at the moment, and you're probably familiar with the producer role and the director role, but maybe not so with what a media operator does or what fixed rig and outside broadcast is. So give you a little chance to open your mind a little bit to some of the roles. We've got an amazing panel tonight. Thank you so very much for giving up your time to come out to the depths of Farnham to see us. So just to sort of name check everyone, we've got Jonathan Glazier, who is a studio director for every single Shiny Floor show I can ever think of. Most notably, Asia's Got Talent, £1 Million Drop, and he'll talk to us a little bit about some of the studio roles that you may not sort of know, things that go behind the scenes there. Claire Wilkie from Wilkie TV, who does outside broadcasts, London Olympics, all kinds of things. Tom Morgan from Envy, which is the envy of most post-production houses. Is that really good? No? So Envy have won so many awards, and you'll tell us about some of the amazing content you do there. Carrie Wootton, who is the director for Rise, which helps women in tech and in the broadcast industry. So again, we'll hear a bit more about that. And Tom Metcalf, who was one of my students. We were working out, I thought it was 2 years ago, but it's about 5. So he was a media operator at Sky. So that will be interesting to find out about that as well. Unfortunately, Adele Fletcher isn't with us this evening, so she's been called away to work on the James Bond film, Now a Time to Die. So they're running massively behind. I shouldn't say this, we're filming, aren't we? So their release date is the 2nd of April, so she's working through the night, but she sent us a video message, so she'll give us some advice as well. And Hannah Green has been called away to work on Batman on night shoots. So she's also sent us a video message. So we've got a really packed hour to get through. So without further ado, let's get started. Jonathan, shall we start with you? Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about how you got started in the industry and what you do now.
Now, being one of the older members of the panel, I'm not going to go on too long. So if I tell you how long I started, my first experience was when I was 6 years old. And I got invited to the children's Christmas party at Elstree Film Studios. My father, who wasn't with us then, was an art director there, working on lots of films, Moby Dick, Look Back in Anger, those types of things. And I walked in when I was 6 years old and just looked at the studio and went, wow, I have to do this for a living somehow. And so really, that's when I got started, when I was 6 years old. But then, of course, like a lot of people who have that same dream, you have to work out how you achieve that. And that's the hard part. And I did all the things that probably some of you did, made little films. It was probably harder for me slightly, working in Super 8 and saving up for my paper round for my camera. Nowadays, you all have a camera in your pocket that you can make films with. But how do I actually get that big break into television? And really, it's one of my bits of advice would be play to your strengths. I was very interested in audio, so I went to the University of Surrey and did physics and music, and that's how I got my in. And it is, as everybody will say, a toe in the door. And once you get a toe in the door to wherever it happens to be, hopefully you can make a move there to your ultimate goal. And mine was always to be a director. And that's the other bit of advice that I'd give just generally to everybody. Be what you want to be. Declare it up front. Don't sort of, I might want to be a director. Say to people, you want to direct. Be confident about it. And that's what I did. And I went through training programs and all the rest of it. And where I am now, I was the former head of formats, entertainment formats at the BBC. I started Fox Television in the UK. And now I'm a consultant, and I'm very fortunate because I work all over the world helping other people achieve their dreams, which is something I'm very pleased to do, I'm very proud to do. But also, I've never stopped directing, because directing is the best job in television, and that's what I do, and it's my passion. So I still direct now whenever I get the chance. That's
Great,
me.
Thank you. We'll come back to some of those in a moment. Claire, would you like to... Yeah, stay right there. Tell us a little bit about how you got started and what you do now, because yours is quite, maybe not the career path you were planning on? I don't know. Tell us.
Yeah, no, totally not. How did I start off. So I would describe myself as a creative person. I ended up not really doing that. I actually run a tech company, an outside broadcast company. We work in live sport. We work in something called fixed rig documentary making. Recently had a series called The Baby's Landed on BBC Two, and it's been recommissioned. And but how did I get there? It's a very good question. I went to the University of Surrey, and I studied.
Very well.
But UCA is great. Other universities are available. And I studied English literature with creative writing. I thought I wanted to study music. I thought I wanted to go into radio. I thought I wanted to do a whole bunch of other things, like set a theatre company. That's still an idea, but anyway. And then I fell into setting up a student TV station there, and then was station manager in my third year, and just managed to get my degree, got a 2-1, yes, and graduated. And it was through student television and just getting involved, getting behind the camera, loved it, that I got my first runner job on BBC Events. So my first official credit was on the Queen's Diamond Jubilee in 2012, and I realised that I was a secret hidden techie when I walked into the big outside broadcast trucks. They have huge TV trucks on big events, and the engineer, there was a guy there, and he pressed a button and the truck expanded into this huge gallery studio where all the production team sit, and I was like, whoa, that's so cool. I want to do this. I want to be part of it. I was the keenest runner ever. And that was where I found my love of TV and also my love of tech. And I'm really interested in how creativity and tech can work together, because half of my job is translating between the two. And I get so excited when a client says, we've got this idea, don't know if it's going to work. And I'm like, well, there's always where there's a Wilkie, there's a way. I'm sure we'll be able to find a way of making this happen for you. And that's what I love about my job and gets me excited.
Did you want to show your clip? Or do you want to come back?
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I guess I have just a very short 1-minute video of a really technically challenging job where a client did just that, came to me and said, we want to stream from the top of a mountain in Italy, in the Dolomites. We want it to be, yes. Oh no, not that recently.
No, we can't.
A bit slow in the uptake. This was last year, not now. But the North Face wanted to create like the ultimate pop-up for their branding campaign, and they wanted it to be creative, they wanted it to be visual. It was live streamed from the top of a mountain to Westfield shopping centres globally, so in Tokyo, New York, Milan, and also Westfield, London. And the live stream was for 7 hours. That's an example of technology, solid engineering, and creativity working together.
Brilliant. And we'll pick up when we speak to Carrie as well about women in tech and sort of some of those choices that you've made. Tom, can I pass to you?
Sure.
You give us a little intro.
Yeah, I'm Tom Morgan, Head of Client Services at Envy Post. I got into the industry over just a little over a decade ago. It was a career change for me. I was in the pharmaceutical market, believe it or not. I can talk about that later.
Please don't say it was University of Surrey.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Don't worry. I decided that I wanted to get into content creation, media, and I was based in Manchester at the time. I decided to freelance with relative degree of success for a couple of years up there. Got a small production company together, and a group of students from the surrounding institutions, from Leeds, Manchester Met, and that was good going for a couple of years. Probably got a little bit too confident, moved down to London, exactly. didn't survive that long, probably about 12 to 14 months freelancing. And no one had really schooled me on the competitive nature of London. I realised quite quickly I had to upskill myself, so I did a short course at Ravensbourne on Avid and general post-production processes, and I got myself into Envy as a runner, and I was training overnight, doing night shifts and weekends, training to become a colorist, and I was training on Avid Symphony for finishing and online. And I was doing that for about a year, and then my predecessor left Envy, and the owners of the company sort of looked at my CV in more detail and guided me towards more management, nurturing and building the young talent that we have at Envy. So one of my key roles is recruitment at entry level for the company, and doing these kind of events.
Can you tell us about some of the amazing award-winning shows that MV...
I've actually got a show reel.
Cue the show reel.
30 seconds.
Where'd you go? What can I do? I'm working on my problems, but I need you here to solve them. Where'd you go? What should I say? I hope that I can make a change. There's something about you keeping me sober. I was driving in the moment, and
Envy's bread and butter when they first started it was documentary post-production work. In the last sort of 5 to 6 years, our sort of repertoire has expanded somewhat to episodic television, scripted comedy, bit of everything really. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And in terms of, so you started as a runner there. I mean, people might not be aware of all the different sort of roles that go on. So it's not just editing, it's ingesting, it's blogging, you know.
The key services are sort of offline, online. We have visual effects studio, and around 15 to 16 audio suites. And obviously online and grade and finishing. And it's not just the operators and the artists running or sort of looking after those suites for our clients. We have post-production producers, bookings assistants, a large sort of front of house staff, because we have 6 facilities in central London, and there needs to be a team to sort of look after each facility. We just cluster them as front of house, but it's made up of reception, booking assistant, post-production coordinators. We've had runners move into our accounts department before. There's a mix of roles.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. Carrie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my career's done all sorts of squiggly journeys. I started at the University of Kent, so a different one, doing...
Another rival.
I know, I'm sorry. But doing drama and theatre studies, so completely different to... I suppose, to the TV industry. I don't think at that point I thought I'd be entering the TV industry in any shape or form. I thought theatre would be my career. But in my 4th year at university, I studied radio drama, and then that led me to an entry job in radio drama at the BBC. And then from there, as I say, my career journey has gone on all sorts of different ways. But I suppose over the last 10 years specifically has led me into broadcast engineering and the tech side of the industry. And I'm currently the managing director of Rise, and founded Rise with Sadie Groom, who runs Bubble Agency. And Rise is an advocacy group for women working in the broadcast technology sector. And we have 4 strands of work. One is an annual mentoring program. So for those who are entering the industry, please do have a look. We've got the applications for our mentoring program are open now and close in a couple of weeks. And I'm happy to chat about that a bit more. We run a series of events as well, an award ceremony at IBC. And then also more recently, we are running a program called Rise Up, which is a primary school program delivering broadcast workshops to 10 and 11-year-olds to try and get more diversity into the industry. So I'm happy to chat about that as well.
Brilliant. We'll come back to that in a moment. Tom. Another Tom.
Yeah, another Tom here. Hi everyone, I'm Tom Metcalf. I'm a VT operator at Sky Sports News and Sky News. So in a nutshell, as Lindsay said before, she used to be my professor at Hertfordshire Uni. From that point, I always knew that I wanted to go into the industry, so making films from a young age, web series, short films. I think the main thing was taking up I know people say it a lot, any opportunity that comes up. So I think it was in our final year at uni, we had a guest speaker come in, and he was from Applause Store, which is the company that gives out the tickets for people to go on to the audiences in Big Brother, X Factor, Harry Hill. So I emailed him straight away because, you know, it was an opportunity. So I was a junior TV audience manager at Elstree. So I was doing that for a couple of months and then graduated. So I moved back home, couldn't continue that. And I was lucky enough that I had a close friend who worked at Sky, one of those lucky few. And I gave my CV to him and I went in for an induction, and then they took me on as a content checker, which was quality assurance. So basically, you'll probably laugh, I would go in and my week would be watching Game of Thrones in full or something like that. So all the high priority box sets, TV on Sky Cinema, making sure all the catch up was there on Sky. You know, your latest episode of Love Island or Come Dine With Me or whatever it might be, making sure that was there on time. So I did that for a couple of years. On the side of that, I was freelancing as well, doing camera assisting, location marshalling, production running. So I never really knew what exactly I wanted to go into. I loved directing, writing, editing when I was at uni, so it was difficult to find an avenue, and you need to be really flexible. You know, production runner's kind of the key, probably, way to go in as a runner. So I did 4 months production running on Game of Thrones sideshow, which was Thronecast, because luckily that was at Sky as well, so I was flexible. Then I went off traveling because I needed a bit of a break from... I'd done 3.5 years at Sky. It was quite, you know, it gets quite heavy when you're in the city. I moved to London and, you know, questioning what you might be doing, what's your next step. So I went traveling, and I do travel videos on the side. So I knew, okay, it's not just like I'm going to go adventuring and drinking for 9 months. Like I went and worked in New Zealand, and I did travel videos. Then I came back, luckily back to Sky, and I got my job with Sky Sports and News because they referred me over. So I'd never done anything technical. Maybe a lot of you might think, you know, I'm not technically minded. So I went into the gallery, you know the layout. You've got all these buttons, all these lights, 50 screens. So I was like, right, okay. They speed trained me up, so I'm basically turning around all the live sports events. So you might have 6 Premier League football games on at one time. You're staring at them all, like, quick, get me that goal from, I don't know, Leicester. So you quickly, on your little EVS box, spool back, in, out, point, and then they'll come to you and that will go live to TV. So it's full on, a lot of pressure, but it's amazing. So don't close yourself off to doing these type of roles, because never in 100 years I would have said, yeah, I'll be in a TV gallery doing a technical job, but, you know, it just happens, and embrace it, yeah.
Can I just comment on that?
Yeah, of course.
Actually, I was going to say that as well. Sometimes I think that flexibility is really important. And Sky do brilliant getting into tech programs, as do lots of other companies. And I think if you're interested in that side of things, or even if you're not and suddenly you think you are, a bit like Claire said, you know, she's going from creative, I think that's really important to kind of keep your mind open to those opportunities as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we spend a lot of time looking at the producer, director kind of roles, but it's all those other facets that come together that take you in that direction. I mean, Jonathan, in the studio, there's so many different roles, isn't there, that everyone plays a part to play to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, you never realise necessarily, you do when you watch the credits sometimes on some things, but, you know, on Asia's Got Talent, there are 216 people on the crew. So there's a lot of jobs there to do. And it's brilliant. You know, it's one of the things that I love about it, because often you listen to everybody's kind of path into the industry and it's wound out, you know, it's gone all over the place, because it's one of those weird things where until you've done it for a bit, you kind of don't know what the jobs entail. And sometimes you might have these wistful ideas about, you know, writing or directing or whatever, and you find you're just really good at queuing stuff in. You really kind of love the buzz of sitting in a live gallery. And not everybody can be a director and a producer. Everybody dreams about doing that sometimes. But there's so many really rewarding jobs. And the one thing you learn as a director is it's a team. You know, I just flap my arms about and shout a bit. You know, everybody else helps make the program. So it's a team effort. And it's finding all of those different jobs. You know, 212 people, 214 people. Those jobs come from anywhere. And sometimes, you know, we have story producers, so you get a chance at telling stories in the edit suite. We have people who are very just good with people. You know, they've probably got English degrees. Some of them might even have maths degrees. Not quite so common, but anyway. But they're very, very good with people. And so they become people that help people on shows that they deal with our contestants. You know, and that is a difficult job. It's a difficult job to deal with members of the public. As anybody that's in a client-facing business knows, that's one of the biggest bugbears. But when you've got hundreds of contestants, particularly coming from all over the world, to do something like Asia's Got Talent, 17 countries, not speaking, you know, speaking 14 different languages, I think it is. You know, it's a hard job. You just have to be good with people. And the other thing is, you know, and the great joy about the industry now, I remember when the very first young woman started as a sound person at ATV Elstree. And there was this wonderful, wonderful gentleman, and he was a gentleman, called Len Penfold, who is one of the great sound supervisors of my era in the industry. And he gave this young woman 2 isolating transformers and told her to walk down the covered way, because he said, that's what it's like, it's heavy lifting. And the great joy about this business is all of that has passed. Everybody competes on an equal playing field. You can be in tech and become you know, female sound supervisor, female camera operators. You know, it's brilliant that it's leveled out. And I'm a great champion of the fact that it has leveled out. And you can do anything, and anybody can do anything. It doesn't matter what your gender, what your sexual orientation is. It doesn't matter what your race is, where you come from, what your socioeconomic background is. You can do anything. You just have to know what's there to do.
Carrie, do you want to pick up on that? Because obviously the statistics are still, women are underrepresented in some fields still, but it's definitely getting better.
It's
and as you say,
it's
no
definitely
reason
getting
not.
better without question. There's definitely improvement in terms of, I'm specifically talking about women in broadcast technology roles rather than the writer, producer and directors. But I disagree, actually. I don't think it's leveled out yet. And that's why Rise is here to try and support women in the industry and to try and change that. I'm going to give you a couple of stories. So one of the women on our mentoring program, and this is not as a discouragement, I hope this is going to be more of an encouragement, but I'll tell the story anyway. She got a promotion, which was amazing, during the time that she was on our mentoring program. And sadly, she didn't get the pay rise to go with that. So she, with the support of her mentor, went back to her boss and did a big presentation on why she should get the salary increase and what the industry standard was for her job. And they said no. And she went back 3 times. 3 times she went back to say, I think I deserve the pay rise to go with the promotion and the title and the responsibilities I was getting. And eventually the company said yes. And I'd like to say that that was an isolated incident, but actually it's not. So things, I do disagree. I think there is a long way to go, and that's just one example of just the gender pay gap. However, things are changing, things are improving, and the fact that Rise exists and we're supported by industry companies shows that the industry knows that it needs to change and that it wants to change. It's just that we've got a bit of a way to go. But that shouldn't prevent anyone wanting to get into this bit of the industry, and I agree with that. Anybody can do any job. So don't let that prevent you. But I do think there's a bit of a way to go.
So that neatly leads me into Adele Fletcher, who is a sound editor. As I said, she's working on James Bond tonight. So shall we have a little listen to what she says? And she's actually a student from University for Creative Arts. So we've got one at last. So here we go.
Lindsay asked me to record a little message for you. Sorry I couldn't come down to the lovely Farnham today. I'm stuck at work. But I went to Farnham probably about 20 years ago, and I'm now working in the industry as a dialogue and ADR editor. And Lindsay asked me to give you some advice about working in the industry. So I would say be in the right place at the right time. And you might be thinking like, what does that mean? But I've never got a job off someone that I didn't know. So I've spent a lot of time making relationships with people, meeting lots of people, putting myself out there. and basically hopefully being there for when they needed someone. And sure enough, they did need someone and they phoned me up to give me a job. So basically, I'll tell you how I got my first job in the industry. It was when I went to the NFTS and did an MA in sound. And we had this like guest lecturer come, and he was like, oh, if anyone wants to come and sit at the back of my studio at Delaney Warner Brothers in Soho, you're more than welcome. And I was the only one that took him up on his offer. And he was like, yeah, I don't know why no one else wanted to come. But anyway, so I went to Soho and was really keen and on time and enthusiastic and didn't look at my phone, and basically sat at the back of his studio and met this guy called Peter, who ran a small sound post-production company. And I sort of asked Peter for his card, and I said, do you think I could have some work experience? And Pete was like, oh, you're sorry, we're really busy, can't help. And then, so I phoned him every week and was like, how about this week? You free? Can I come this week? Are you free? And he was like, oh, no, I'm really sorry, I just don't have the time. And then after about a month, I was getting a bit bored because I'd graduated and I was sort of sitting at home. And I thought I'm going to try a different tactic. So I phoned Peter up again, and he sort of tried to palm me off. And I said to him, like, sorry, Peter, but what are you busy doing? No, maybe I could help with the busy. And he was like, we're working with this my director, and we've got to move studios. The whole place is in a tip and nightmare. And I was like, listen, I said to him, I'm not doing anything tomorrow. How about, I'd love to see your studio. How about I come to Soho and I just help you pack some boxes or something? I'll come to the studio. And he was like, what, really? Help pack? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Did that. 3 days later, he gave me keys to the building. I was a runner and I got my first job in the industry. So basically, think a little bit outside the box, be friendly, and it's paid off. I'm super happy. I love my job. I worked on Peaky Blinders last year, got nominated for an award in LA, which is this really nerdy sound award called the MPSC, which is the Motion Picture Sound Editors Award. And at the moment, I'm actually doing one of my career ambitions, which is kind of a bit mad to say it, but I've only got a small part on the crew, but I'm working on the new James Bond film, so that's bloody cool. And so work hard and just research and meet lots of people, and hopefully some of you want to do sound. Sound rocks. Forget about camera, script writing. Sound is the way to go, people. All right, Lindsay, Karis, Noski, love you all. Really, really lovely to see you, sort of chat. And hope to see you soon. All right, take care. Bye.
We'll forgive her for doing James Bond tonight, but we won't let that happen again. So.
I think that networking bit's really important, though, isn't it? Actually, her talking through how important that network's been to her whole career, and that actually that's how she's got every single job. I think the points she raises are really important. And
it's a really tricky thing to get right as well, because how do you, where's the balance? Because you don't want to be really hassling people. You're all going to get hassled now after this, aren't you? But just getting that balance right, isn't it? Yeah.
The cold hard fact is nobody's going to come to you and say, do you want a job in television? You have to go to them. And that's what it means. You've got to get out and network and meet people. I once did a very similar thing to this in New Zealand, and I said, just guess at people's emails address. What's your program you love? You can see their name, and you know that it's either name.name, you can find the production company, you can find out the domain address, write to the producer, write to the sound editor, write to somebody, have a few guesses. If it doesn't get there, it'll ping back. Show your initiative. Say, me, I want that job. And one girl in that whole room, by the time I'd driven back, which in Auckland was like 10 minutes away to my office, had emailed me. We gave her a job as a work placement, and she's now a producer in New Zealand television. So it does work. We all love our job. We love talking about it. Most of us are egomaniacs. We wouldn't do the jobs that we do anyway. So when somebody says, oh, tell me about what you do, you get an hour-long tour of wherever it happens to be, usually. Yes, it's a tightrope, because you can also hack people off if you pester them to death, but get out there, circulate, Ask people what they do. Find out what your passion is. And be interested. There's a lot of sitting about in television. Don't get on your phone. If you've been invited somewhere, no. Be interested. Ask questions. Be personable. Be interested.
Claire, do you want to, your sort of tips there on networking?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did. I was very go-getting and was like, I could see how I could be helpful somewhere, so I would just go and do the job before I was asked to do it. So if that's as a runner, you're often running, that's what you do. You run after, you look after people, that's what your job is. And I think sometimes it is the most overlooked role in TV and one of the most important roles because it's human welfare. Looking after people, making sure the director gets a coffee when they need it, before they've asked for it. Timing is everything. Making sure if you walk into a gallery, you stand at the back. Observational skills. When is the right time to tap someone on the shoulder and sort of go, tea? At the right time without suddenly interrupting a live interview. You know, just initiative is everything in TV. Guessing people's emails. I still do that now when I'm looking for new clients. If I have a new another remote production job or some tech I really need to talk to someone about, I will guess their email, I will hunt them down, and I will chase them until they take me on as their supplier in the nicest way possible. Kill people with kindness. And be kind. Be kind on the way up. Because on the way down, you want people to be nice to you. It's so true. TV is cutthroat, but also there are good people in TV and kind people, and kindness gets you everywhere and gets you noticed. So be kind.
Yeah, that's a nice message. And I think Adele showed real resilience as well. So she wasn't the fact that she was rejected. You know, you're getting rejected. You're not being responded to or no's. You've got to keep going. And you say it in a nice way, in a positive way. Attitude is everything at the end of the day. And it's quite easy sometimes when you look at some new entrants and you can quite quickly see who's going to make it and who isn't, in the sense of you can see that passion, the enthusiasm, the attitude, and that's something, you know, you've all got. You can all do that to give yourself that head start. Tom, any tips from you there?
Totally agree with everything that's just been said. I think something that I see a lot in applications that come through is standardized application emails. So, as in you've just copied and pasted from one email to another and just flung out the same email to 12 different people. It doesn't work. You have to write every single application dependent on the person or the company you're sending it to. Otherwise, it's quite apparent to a potential employer that you just want a job. It's got to be more than that. You have to show, as you say, passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to add anything? Yeah.
I was just going to actually talk about that whole, when you're networking, I think quite a few people still find that daunting. And if you're going into the industry and you're going into, say, if you were coming into this room and you didn't know a single person, how daunting that can be. But I think to practice, I suppose, your networking skills, practice on each other and I know you might not be feeling confident, but try and have confidence in that. Because as we've been talking about, your network is going to be your best ally. But I think just, have confidence in your networking and don't underestimate it. But the confidence thing, I think, is the thing that comes up time and time again. And it comes back to the approach, actually. Be confident in your emails as well. Be clear about who you're talking to and what their role is and why you want that job. It comes back to the points that Tom was just making as well.
Tom, do you want to?
Yeah, I completely agree with, everything that's been said. I think the networking is definitely the most important part. And it's about being personable, and you want people to like you. You need your personality to shine out. They need to see the kind of person they're going to be working with. And it's really not selling yourself to a massive extent, but just show them what they gain from having you on board, what kind of person you are. Be that person that might, send a handwritten letter to an exec of some show. Like, you might think it will sound daft or they might not read it, but you'll lose, 10, 15 minutes from writing that, posting it, send your show reel into a production company. It's just taking those extra leaps, and if you've not got much on at the time, it's using that time to your advantage and making sure you get what you want to get.
We've got another video message. Helen, could we play Hannah's advice? So Hannah's on a Batman shoot tonight, so she's done a... I know. I must have been like a lucky kind of jinx for people getting jobs.
She's sorry.
Hi everyone, I'm so sorry I've had to miss the panel this evening, but I've been asked to share my biggest tip for getting started in the industry. So my biggest tip for getting started is to work to maintain the relationships you make with contacts along the way, whether that's on set or work experience or if you're shadowing someone. And I know that seems like a pretty obvious, commonsensical thing to recommend, but I think people underestimate how much that can help you get jobs and progress in your career. What I recommend is either on your phone or your laptop, you make a list of everyone you've met on a job. Always remember to exchange contact details with someone. And what I do personally is after I've worked with someone, the day after or a couple of days later, send them a text, thank them, say that it was lovely to meet them and that you'd love to stay in contact. And I think that leaves a really good impression and lays a foundation for all future communication. And it makes it much more easier for them to contact you later on. As awkward as it might feel to be messaging people you've worked with out of the blue, it never hurts to send them your updated CV or let them know when you're available, because you never know when they might be looking for someone to give them an extra pair of hands, or they might be hiring for a new job.
I heard you, Hannah, that's fine. Okay, shall we open it up to the floor for any questions? We've got a mic that we can very beautifully throw at you, but you need to speak into the star, is that right, Sophie? Yes. So the star. Oh. No expense spared on the mic tonight. Does anyone want... Oh, we've got a question down the front. There we go. You don't even need to throw it. Look, there we go.
Oh, this is fun. Hi. Hi. Did that work? Okay, yes. Cool. Yeah, is that working? Hi. This is kind of, I guess, a dual question from both of us. We're both international students who want to stay in this country, and we were wondering if you guys have any advice on getting jobs for people who need a visa. How difficult that is, or... I know that networking is super important, but unlike other people, we can't really just go in and apply. So if there's any advice for that, it'd be great.
Anyone want to take that?
If not, that's fine.
Well, sadly, on the 31st of January, it got a whole lot harder, but there we go. Look, this is what I would say. The world is your oyster, okay? You don't necessarily have to just look at the UK, and I know you're here at the moment, and you might want to do that. But you know, I have exactly the same issues. I work all over the place and need visas. I had to go into London today to get a visa for somewhere that I'm going tomorrow. You just have to get sponsorship. You know, it's the same deal. Network, talk to people, be good at what you do, and then ask them to help you, you know? And if there's a role for you to play, you know, if I'm completely honest, to get a visa, if you're a runner, is going to be pretty difficult as a toe in the industry. But, you know, there are ways, and it's just finding other people. Networking with other international students that are working here, I would suggest would be one of your first things to do, and find out how they did it. Because everybody's road is going to be slightly different, you know, and depending on what your country of origin is, what your job that you're aiming for is going to be.
You might be able to do it another way, like through a live brief or something, so it's not called work experience in the same way. There might be another way. So we could have a chat with you later to talk about that.
Also, I know that I know a lot of international people working in the industry. I mean, I think particularly looking at those bigger companies that have got more capacity, I think, you know, Sky takes, you know, people from all around the world. I mean, there are lots of companies that will do that. I'm just talking about them. Yeah, I think if you're looking at smaller companies, then that visa angle might be more tricky. So maybe, I mean, I don't know this. I'm just kind of guessing, but that might be a better approach.
I think that's good advice. I think that's good advice. I think you need to look at international companies, but who are obviously have London or UK-based offices, because they are most likely to hold a license to apply for visas that you require.
That's good advice. Any more questions? Have you all gone shy? Have we just given you... Oh, sorry, I can't see you, blinded by the light. Here we go. Hey!
Hello. Do apologise that the crew is asking a question.
No.
But what is the project that made you feel like the most proudest, or the first project where you were really like, wow, I know exactly where I am and this is where I need to be?
Should we go down this end first?
I'd probably say it would have been my first run a job when I came out of uni, as I said before on the talk show Thronecast, because I was the production runner. It's my first big amount of responsibilities, you know, looking after members of the Game of Thrones cast that came onto the show. And I think, you know, taking care of that amount of people, you've got the producers, the director, quite a lot of them are pregnant as well, actually, so that felt like you were doing a bit more work, like making sure they're comfortable. And I think that as well, when you're, because it was my first thing as well, and I was obviously a big fan of the show, so going in that way, that was really exciting. And yeah, I think the first one you do, unless it's a horrible experience, which it wasn't, will always be like a big one that stands out for you, unless it's a career highlight. But yeah, definitely that first.
The first time you see your name in the credits,
Yeah,
you just
definitely.
I've done it. It's
Definitely.
brilliant. I remember on my one, I had to, I was working on a talk show, an entertainment show, and all I had to do as a runner was cue a lookalike queen to come on and open the show and cut a ribbon. And I queued her too early. And the exec came screaming around the corner, like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, that's it. My career's over." But I lived to tell.
Yeah,
seeing your name is quite something.
when you first issue, it's the little things like your name on there. They got me to make randomly. I didn't do art or anything, but making little props to use in the show. So they had a milk carton. Like, quick, you've got an hour to, you know, put Daenerys Targaryen's face on that with the missing, like with the milk cartons back in the last century. And then you see that Sue Perkins holding that up, and you're like, I made that milk carton, you know.
And that
It
is
looks
your
good.
career highlight.
Yeah, that's the highlight.
Do you want to add anything? Career highlights?
Well, my mother still doesn't really believe what I do. And so she'll watch something that I've done and she'll say, "Who did that?" And I say, "Well, you know, I decided it would be blue." No, but who actually did it? You know, so I wish I could make her understand that it might have actually been me. But to that end, one of my sort of proudest moments was I used to live in Docklands, and I could sit on my balcony, and I was doing a show called Don't Try This at Home, which Davina McCall presented, and I was the producer and director on that, but I also used to write her script. And I tried to make them kind of light and fluffy and funny in a kind of Davina style. But I could sit on my balcony while the programme was going out on Saturday night and hear other people laughing at things that I'd written. Yeah. And as a dyslexic, you know, that gave me, you know, I thought, thank goodness Mr. Jones stuck by me at school, because that really did give me a kind of, do you know, I really did do that. I wrote that and other people are laughing at it. Another one was when I was a lifelong Deep Purple fan as a kid. You probably don't ever remember them. But I directed them, and the first time I pointed a camera at those strings going ding, ding, ding for Smoke on the Water was quite a big moment in my career.
Claire, you must have a good... London Olympics, that must be up there? No?
Yes. That was quite a long time ago now. I guess when I was a camera operator on the London Olympics and was seeing the footage go out live and just thought, this is totally awesome. I love doing this. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then also now with my own company, my broadcast company, seeing our name in the credits is awesome. And being top of the credits is even more awesome. And getting known in the industry now, you know, it's been hard. I set my business up at 23, and I was very new and green, and no one took me seriously. I didn't expect them to, but I set my business up because I got ill when I graduated, and I decided I'd work for myself. Wow. And that was a crazy decision to make. And still now I look younger than I am. I don't always get taken seriously by a lot of people in my industry, in the tech side of TV. But I'm like, fine, I'm the future. We're the future. And that's fine. Yay. Having good attitude is everything.
Yeah. My career highlights. Oh, do you know what? It's changed. One of my big ones I wanted to work on EastEnders for some reason. It was where I wanted to be. And so as I think I mentioned, I started in radio drama. And I went for lots of jobs, like in script editing and script assistance, and got down to the last 2 and wouldn't get the job. And this went on for a couple of years. And then eventually I got a job as a script researcher on EastEnders, and it was the most amazing thing. It was intense and crazy, and I brought Dirty Den back from the dead. I know. Oh yeah. So that was pretty amazing, and I think I've found that with every job that I've done, that actually once you start a job, you think, oh, actually, I want to be able to do this and this and it, and then actually when you achieve that, that's incredible, and that would change depending on where your career goes. But that was definitely a highlight during my early years anyway.
I think it's that goal setting, isn't it?
Yeah,
and then you achieve your dream, and then you're like, what? I've done it.
And I think it's important that can change as well, that actually, your goals will change, and they're, depending on where you go, whether you stay in the UK, whether you go internationally, or you change career, it all changes.
Tom? Oh, yeah, of course.
Sorry, I don't want to hog the limelight.
Go for it.
But for me, the biggest career moment has just happened with being the facilities provider and the tech partner to a really great production company, and launching a primetime BBC Two show, which went out in the autumn, and seeing my business's name credited as special camera and fixed rig technical provider was just freaking awesome, because I'd always said when I left, I was like, I want to work and do a show for the BBC in my own right, and yeah, that's happened. So
that's brilliant. Well done, you. Well done.
It's called the Baby Has Landed. It is the next one born every minute, because that's been decommissioned. So yes, anyway, that's that.
Good for you. Tom, do you want to add any? You've got lots of lots of highlights and awards that go on at your...
Yeah, I mean, Envy's an award-winning post-production house. I think one of the most decorated in the country for the time it's been around, which is about 13 years. But my personal highlight is probably what I'm doing now for Envy. So out of the sort of 230-odd staff that we have across all our facilities, at least half of them, or just less than half, started as a runner at Envy in the past few years. So the ethos of the company is to find, nurture talent, grow it from the ground up. And I love seeing individuals, staff internally that I hired as a runner maybe 3-4 years ago, finally make that role as track lay or dubbing mix, or land a position in the VFX studio, or make it a full-blown post-producer. Yeah, that's my highlight.
Really good.
Can I just say one thing?
Yep. Any more questions?
I think the other thing is you've got a golden opportunity at the moment in that, the whole kind of digital spectrum gives people more opportunity. There's more places, if you will, to ply your trade, whatever that happens to be. My thing in broadcast has always been to give people a voice. It's probably because I worked at the BBC, although I did start at ITV. But having a voice is one of the most important things we do. And it doesn't actually matter if that voice comes out of entertainment, a David Attenborough show, or wherever that voice is. A voice is important. People need to feel engaged as entertainers, even as comedians, even on Asia's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent. To see a young person find their dream at playing the guitar or being a comedian or whatever it happens to be. You can be a sound person at university or whatever and think, oh, I'm going to be a tech person, I'm going to do this. But your careers could be amazing. You could change people's views, be it views about women working in any workplace, be it equal pay, be it anything. Having a voice is so important, and it's a real privilege, and I'd say use it well.
Yeah, use it well. Questions? Karis?
I have a question. So you've all been really amazing with the amount of detail that you've covered in terms of how you got into the industry and how you've experienced it. And this is probably a really evil question, I apologize, if you could sum it up in one word, what would be the word that you would choose for the students in the audience as the greatest attribute to have going into the industry?
Resilience, through and through, definitely.
Speechless. One word. Oh.
I've got one where you think about it. I'd say passion.
Yeah.
It's totally cliched, and everyone will say it, and we will all say it. But actually, it's really important. Whatever your job is at that time, you need to be doing it well. And even if you want to move over to something different, you've got to have passion. And that comes through to being kind as well, just your communication skills. But yeah, definitely, that's my one.
That's great.
Okay,
Tom?
belief.
Belief. That's good. Yeah, that's really good.
I have two. Because my first one's similar to the others. I was going to say tenacity.
Oh, yeah.
That's a definite, but also humbleness as well. You don't want to, unless you're a top dog, you wouldn't want to go into a room and act like God's gift. You need to know what your weaknesses are, know what your strengths are, and then, yeah, I think humbleness is a good one.
That's a lovely one.
Yeah.
Claire?
I was going to say humility.
Okay, well,
which
that's
is
all
that
right,
one.
because he's got tenacity. You've got humility.
Humility goes a long way. I would rather hire and work with someone who was adept at their job, but humble and easy to train, than someone who came in and said that they knew it all. Because they're really hard to work with, those people. And team is everything.
Yeah, team. Can I add one? I know I'm chair, but it's kind of two words. Be prepared. I mean, how many of you brought your business cards today? How many of you got an elevator pitch ready to give to the just be prepared. Any situation you're going into, really think about it. Is your target to meet 3 new people tonight and get their details, or just be prepared so you're ready to make the most of that opportunity, whatever it may be. Sorry. Any more questions? Yeah, one over there. Go on, big throw, big throw.
Yeah.
Oh.
So what's been your biggest challenge in the industry, and how have you managed to get through it?
Who wants to start? Your milk carton?
Oh, that's up there. No, I'd say, relating it to the theme of today, starting this, what I'm currently doing as VT operator, is pretty much as technical as it gets. When I got referred last year, I've only been doing this current job 8 months, questioning whether you actually are able to do it in the pressured environment. You're taking the show to the breaks every time. You've got to do the Sky slates. There's a lot of pressure. If they want something, you're doing it straight away. And it's, that self-doubt, which is normal, but anyone in the right environment, you can train yourself to learn any skills and you adapt to that. So you might think that you're not able to keep in all that information and learn a completely new branch of skills, but it is possible, because I really didn't think that I'd be able to do it, but with time and patience, yeah. And also with people having belief in you. And when you get good feedback, which doesn't always happen, but you get that one comment, great work today. Oh, that was really quick. Thanks. It's really important. And there is a lot of pressure, because a big thing with when I applied for this job, the top thing is you need to be good under pressure, because at any point all of the systems can crash, and then it's down to me to build the whole show rundown manually, and they take the whole show from me. And I was always like, oh my God, that's so much pressure, but it's about keeping a cool head. Yeah. I completely forgot what the original question was. Did I answer?
No, challenge. It was very good. Yeah. I was just thinking of feeling like a proud professional for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
He's all grown up and doing all this amazing stuff. I'm very proud of you. Challenges? Yes.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mental health. And being taken seriously. For me, being in broadcast. I don't think there's another OB company run by a woman. So, and not one as young as me. So that was hard to get my foot in there, to prove that we could do what we can do. We do things well. We get the job done. We know what we're talking about. Although it's not packaged up in the way that it has traditionally been. That has been so hard. There was a job I worked on doing OB for a cycle race to BBC, Red Button and Eurosport, and also streamed on Facebook Live. And I'm very happy to go and get the lunch from my crew. I will go and do it because I muck in. I'll pull cables. I'll do what needs to be done. I also know I'm the boss of the company, so I need to be seen as the boss of the company. But I was helping and mucking in with my team and some riggers that, funnily enough, when I met them on the first BBC job I did, I got them tea when I was a runner, and I was bringing out the lunch to my team, and I heard one of them say under their breath, "Oh, good to see she's doing women's work." And I was like, wow. I think I was 27 at the time, and I was like, wow, that's still around. So when I'm not landing the work, is this an actual unseen attitude I'm not seeing? Is this a real thing? And actually, I think it is, and I think just that mentality of putting someone down or putting them in a box can hold you back. It's not through any fault of your own, and it's an unconscious bias, which is hard.
Just like following on from this one, yeah. So Claire was actually one of our mentees from a couple of years ago, but also Claire, just your journey is such a cliched word again, I'm full of them tonight, but how you have grown your company over the last 2 years and the success and the achievements that you've just been talking about. It comes back to that word resilience that Tom mentioned, that you've just described it perfectly, that actually in that, and I think the challenges will be that, as Tom said, and you've just so eloquently described that situation, and you're doing brilliantly. So you're doing fantastically. So
off the back of that as well, you're going to get a lot of no's. Like, it's inevitable, and I think that was my biggest challenge going from, because no one had really schooled me on how to go from freelancing and how the industry really works as a whole, like who develops the projects, what's the production house in relation to a post house, who are the broadcasters and how do they work, and now the SVODs are coming in as well. Like, there's quite a lot to take in. It is complex, and I think there's twofold challenges. One, you've got to keep plugging away, being resilient. If you don't get an opportunity, ask why. Not enough people ask me why after if I let them down from whether it's second stage or an interview stage. It'd be, unfortunately, no, but I never get a call or an email anymore to say why, and that fight. Show some resilience. Make me give reasons, because you're never going to learn if you don't. So rejection and failing isn't a bad thing. You have to, as long as you're learning from each and every process, you'll get there. Trust me.
We've probably got time for one last question, so I don't want to cut into your glass of wine time, because that would not be a good idea, would it? Any last burning question? No? Okay. Well, that's fine. You can carry on. Go on then. Everyone was like ready for the bar. Oh, sit back down.
To the wonderful Jen in the end and the snazzy blazer. As a fellow dyslexic, I just wanted to know how the industry kind of has treated you and how it's changed over the last few years. Again, sorry from the crew.
Look, I mean, this is my kind of bottom line. I don't think dyslexia should ever be an excuse, but it shouldn't be an embarrassment. And I think that's kind of key to it. You know, we all learn how to cope with it through school. When I went through school, I was just stupid. I wasn't dyslexic, and that was a bit of an issue. But I think the industry, as we've all alluded to, is a difficult place to work. And mental health, and I know there's been a lot of talk about that over the last couple of weeks, is really important. The one thing I would say is the people I started with on day one one person in particular, a guy called Paul Freeman. As it happens, our birthdays are one day apart. But he was a cameraman and I was a sound guy. We're lifelong friends, and that's an a career that's lasted longer than I'd care to admit. I don't care. It's over 40 years, and I've known Paul, and we phone each other up. We share our successes, our failures, and our knockbacks. I'm very fortunate. I've got a huge group of friends who are supportive. Use them. You now are all in the same boat. You're all going to go through the same things on the same journey. Use each other. Be friends to each other and be kind to each other, because mental health is a real issue in our industry. And we have to support each other, be honest about it, and tell people how we're feeling. I was once described as a functioning introvert, which I think is very true, by a very, very good friend. My job entails the exact opposite of that. I have to stand up and talk in front of 214 people who poor so-and-sos have to listen to me droning on hours and upon hours and upon hours. And every time I walk onto the studio floor, I think they're talking about me. And it never leaves me. I've been in the industry that long now. I still think when I see two members of the crew chatting, they're going, oh, he's crap, isn't he? You just can't underestimate what a journey it is and how resilient you have to be. So be resilient, but be friendly and be kind and be good to each other.
Oh, that's a perfect point to go out on. Okay, so we have run out of time, but hopefully you can continue some of the conversation over a glass of wine that I promised you. Just some thank yous. Thank you to the panel for giving up your time. Absolutely amazing. Thank you. Thank you to the Royal Television Society, Thames Valley, for providing some wine that we're about to have and to helping us market. Oh, look, big round of applause for that. Thank you to our technicians and the crew and the students who are filming this. So this will be up on RTS YouTube channel at some point. I think it might be being streamed now. So yeah, it's all happening now. Thank you to our marketing team who are here as well, so give them a wave. Sophie. Where's Helen? Thank you, Helen. She's gone. She's quit. She's quit on us. She started on the wine. Okay, never mind. We have got, Karis, would you be able to bring up those bags for us? We've got a little gift for the panel as well to give you. And then all that remains to say is the bar is open, the drinks are open, so please enjoy the rest of the evening, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you.